Welcome to this weekend drive edition of Daily Drive for the first week in May 2024. I'm Jamie Butters, executive editor of Automotive News in Detroit.
And I'm Kellen Walker in Las Vegas. Today we're breaking down some of the biggest stories in the auto industry from the past week and looking forward to what's in store in the days ahead. Today on the show, we'll talk about the state of hybrid sales and what they say about the trajectory of the industry.
Right now, they're taking large losses on EVs, and they're not alone. They're not by themselves. So this isn't a pick on Ford. But the hybrid story, at least to investors, is a little easier for automakers to tell.
Our own Omari Gardner joins us in a few minutes. But first, Jamie, how you doing?
All right, Kel, how about you?
I'm doing great. Let's get into some news. So, this week we reported that Genesis is growing more independent from Hyundai. Now, the brand is continuing to grow. Do you see Genesis becoming as big and independent as Ram did for Dodge?
That's a big ask.
Yeah,
Ram
right.
has become such a powerhouse for Stellantis and its predecessor, uh, Fiat Chrysler and all that Chrysler Group. It's you know, and also they're in different segments, right? I mean, Genesis has been growing pretty steadily, but what were they about 50,000, 60,000, maybe seven? I'm sorry. What were they? I think 69,000 sales last year in the U.S. So that's like a fifth of the size of BMW in this market. So they've got a long way to go to get really competitive. But it's getting healthy. They keep coming out with new products, really trying to build up the brand, make it something really attractive, and still a good value in its segment.
Gotcha. I don't see anything but Genesis growing. I mean, Hyundai Group, I've been so impressed by them. And I tell you this all the time, how we remember the Hyundais of the early 2000s and late 90s and then just what they've become now. It's just, I don't see them failing, I guess is
It's
what I'm getting at.
it is so amazing, the transformation of that brand, Hyundai and Kia, and now the invention of Genesis. Really just remarkable.
Absolutely. And also, Jamie, Chinese automaker BYD's first quarter revenue missed analyst estimates. That's due to aggressive price cuts across most of its lineup, but they are still selling cars and their net income rose 11% year over year. Now, Jamie, should we be rattled that BYD's most popular EV starts at less than $10,000? Are we just buying time until BYD arrives in the US market?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it seems, actually BYD is in the US. They supply some buses out in LA, out
True,
in
true.
California. So they're here a little bit, but in the consumer vehicle space, it would seem that they're going to come sooner or later. It's complicated, obviously, a lot of political considerations, tariffs, big tariffs that are out there right now, but also tariff threats. So not an easy path, but it would seem like something that would happen eventually. And yeah, you're absolutely right. The fact that the cost advantage that the Chinese automakers, especially one as vertically integrated as BYD, have, their ability to offer low cost, pretty attractive EVs is a serious competitive threat. Whether you're, Tesla or Ford or Toyota or GM, they're seriously strong competitor. Maybe their products aren't the right fit for the US market, but chances are, they'll figure out what it's going to take and try to deliver it.
I mean, if you think about it, after like tariffs, and this is just an estimate now, but after tariffs and shipping, you bring that to the United States, that might be what, a $17,000 car, $18,000 car, and it'll still be more, I guess, affordable than anything else that's on the market right now currently.
Yeah, and then that would be really compelling, a sub $20,000 EV, if it has some decent range, if the charging is available in the right ways. But yeah, could make a real dent, definitely puts a lot of pressure on the market.
And on the other end of the EV market, Cadillac leaders are suggesting the brand could keep selling. God dang it, sorry. And on the other end of the EV market, Cadillac leaders are suggesting that the brand could keep gasoline powered. I keep missing the its. I'm sorry, Tom. I'm gonna try it one more time. And on the other end of the EV and on the other end of the EV spectrum, Cadillac leaders are suggesting the brand could keep its gasoline-powered lineup beyond its 2030 target of going all electric. Now, with EV adoption slowing down, Do you think we'll see this from more automakers? Do you think we'll see more automakers back off that pledge to have full electric lineups?
GM has been a trailblazer in walking back its its proclamations of an all EV future. Right away it came out initially, zero emissions by 2035, and then it was like, well, if the consumer wants to go there with us, right? If they're done buying gasoline powered Silverados and all that, so then they were like, okay, but 2030 for Cadillac, Buick. Now, Cadillac's like, maybe we still need some gas powered Escalades beyond 2030. So definitely, heavy with the asterisk. And the suspicion is there will be other brands that might uh, hedge back or, not hit all of their targets, but try to give consumers at least a choice. That's definitely what GM is touting. I think they call it the luxury of choice. So
Mm.
that's the goal. That's the spin, and they may not be alone in not being able to meet all of their most idealistic targets announced during the bubbliest time for EVs.
Coming up, hybrid sales are surging. What does that mean for the industry's larger electrification plans? That's next on Weekend Drive.
Welcome back to Weekend Drive. I'm Jamie Butters with Kellen Walker. We've seen the trajectory of the industry's electrification goals shift a bit early on here in 2024. Automakers are seeing a surge in demand for hybrids to the delight of companies such as Toyota, which saw sales jump in the first quarter and again in April. On Thursday, we spoke with Bosch's Paul Thomas on the show about how those trends are affecting suppliers. But what does the medium term and long term picture look like for the industry? To help parse that out, we have Automotive News Director of Content and Commentary, Omari Gardner, here with us. Omari Gardner, welcome to Weekend Drive.
Thanks for having me on.
Kel and I were just talking a little bit ago about Cadillac's uh, hedging a bit on their deadline for converting to an all-electric future. And, what has really coincided with this is, of course, GM working to bring back plug-in hybrids, a technology they were, really leaders on for a while and then walked away from. There's a lot of speculation about what kind of vehicles they might bring that technology back on. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, you know the the of course GM, just like everybody else, is facing the market realities. They're probably moving. The market is moving a lot slower than probably the automakers had hoped. Certainly fast, not as slow as or slower than governments had hoped. Including California, New York. Those they're pressuring the automakers to go all electric. But they also have to deal with the market realities of now. And I think going forward, if they want to really hit that sweet spot, I think they're going to have to of course crossovers, and particularly the midsize and compact segments, because those are the gasoline counterparts are selling really well. And they have to make them affordable. And even with the Inflation Reduction Act, the costs are for midsize crossovers still fairly high. So they're going to have to keep on working to achieve that sweet spot in the market.
Yeah, you can't go wrong selling into the most popular segments.
Yeah.
But also along those lines, that's kind of why, I think they might really lean into pickups and full-size SUVs,
Hmm.
which we know can be a real struggle for battery power. We had Paul Thomas on earlier this week. You had his guest column on our editorial pages on our guest column page. Because he really feels like, especially when it's for work, but even a lot of people who don't need them for work, they're hauling, a horse or a camper or something. So just to have the power, have the horsepower when you need it to carry a heavy load, to maintain your range, could be a really good solution there. I could see plug-in hybrids in that segment for sure, especially because when you try to do it just with batteries, you try to have enough battery to carry a heavy load, carry it a decent distance. You end up adding more battery. that you have to carry around. And so you need more battery to carry around the extra battery. It just like snowballs and
Yeah.
gets really expensive.
Yeah, and presumably, if it's a work truck, it's going to be working throughout the a given day. So, you don't want your truck to be out of commission while it's charging, but you still want to save on fuel. And if you have a heavily laden vehicle and you're towing something or you're hauling something, that's going to sap battery power pretty quickly. So, so hybrids may be, at least as the technology is today, an ideal solution for those businesses.
Yeah. And for consumers, I think plug-in hybrids are a really interesting solution. I know people here in Metro Detroit who've had them, and they they get like hundreds, if not 1,000 miles to the gallon because they just drive it around town. They plug it in all the time, but it gives them the comfort of knowing they can up and drive to Chicago or Atlanta if that's what they want to do. But regular hybrids are really doing well in
Yeah,
the market these days too. Like,
definitely.
gas prices are a little high, and people are looking for ways to save, but maybe without the full commitment to an EV or even a plug-in hybrid.
Right. And, Toyota, as we well know, has been steadfast in its hybrid strategy. And so far, it's been hard to prove them wrong. But, there are a lot of hybrids on the market from most automakers. And, now they've have I don't want to say they've reversed course, but they've taken a detour on their strategy toward EVs, and they're saying that more people are more interested in hybrids. One of the things that you can do with a hybrid is the home charging is always a dilemma, at least as the technology stands right now. You can plug a hybrid into a standard outlet, as opposed to having a level two charger, which, depending on how your house was built, how when it was built, you know, it's kind of expensive to install a level two charger. But you probably in all likelihood already have a standard plug in your garage. You can just plug it in, and it doesn't need to charge 200 miles, 300 miles. It charges for you, and you can do that in your garage.
Yeah, you're right. A plug-in hybrid works really well for people, even if they don't get the heavy-duty charger. And regular hybrids are selling really well. Toyota had a big month. I think you mentioned earlier, sort of more emphasis. A lot of consumers like hybrids and plug-in hybrids for the benefits they give. It seems like investors have suddenly grown wary of EVs. I think maybe Ford's decision to break out its Model E's, bottom line has scared off some investors. They're so worried about EVs. I thought it was funny, Ford's April release. Ford sales were down a little, but you always want to talk about the good news. And they led with the fact that their EV sales jumped 60%. Not their EV. I'm sorry. They led with the fact that their hybrid sales jumped 60% in April, led by the Maverick compact pickup and the F-150 Power Boost hybrid, and that's good growth. But their EV sales more than doubled; they jumped 129%.
Right.
If it had been last year when investors were still gaga for EVs, they certainly would have led with that instead of
Yeah.
the hybrid sales jump. But this is the world we're living in. Everybody's a little bit wary on the EV thing in the short term.
Yeah, and it's even when the EVs are selling, they've cut prices. They're um, you know piling up incentives. They're right now, they're taking large losses on EVs, and they're not alone. They're not by themselves. So this isn't a pick on Ford. But the hybrid story, at least to investors, is a little easier for automakers to tell.
Yeah, you're right. It's not just Ford, and it's not just the U.S. Our colleagues in Europe were saying in a meeting this week, and hey, you can find it on europe.autonews.com. Right, sales fell for EVs by 11%, for gasoline and diesel-powered cars, but plug-in hybrids ticked up 0.7%, even in a month that was really down overall. The hybrids gained ground in Europe, so that's an interesting development. Of course, as an editorial board, we discuss this. We discuss it almost every week. Like,
Hmm.
where do things stand? And I think we really decided we respect the effort to reduce losses on EVs, but we really wanted to caution automakers not to stomp on the brakes, just tap them, right? Because uh, you explain.
Yeah, well, I mean, this the EV market again is challenging, but the products that we're seeing coming from the automakers that sell in the U.S. are still pretty good. I just drove the Acura ZDX, which I believe is being co-developed with GM,
Yeah.
um, and it's a pretty solid product, and the automakers who are selling here are they're making their slow progress, but there is the pressure coming from China. China has many automakers, many that are getting into EVs. The government is compelling the automakers to get into EVs, through mandates and incentives. And we saw the recent Beijing Auto Show. Boy, there is a heck of a lot of product coming in for the Chinese market, not from just Chinese automakers, but from the Volkswagens and other automakers who sell vehicles in the U.S. And eventually, you have to wonder. It's not a matter of if, but when the Chinese brands make their way into the United States.
Yeah, they've got a huge head start, kind of like Tesla, but with maybe even more, if it's possible, even more government support behind
Yeah,
them. Uh, and uh, and yeah, you're going to have to compete with them, in the long run for sure. Maybe even in the medium run. So they can't get too far behind. They have an opportunity to be fast followers, learn from what Tesla's done with gigacasting and battery tech, learn from what the Chinese have done. But as you know, we've got to build up this North American, supply chain with
hmm
mining and refining and all that. It is going to take some time, but by the time the charging network and the supply chain gets built up, they're going to need competitive vehicles as well. So hopefully they're not taking their eye off the ball. I think that's what we're really hearing from Ford. Going back to Ford again, is de-emphasizing the large vehicles that maybe a couple years ago it looked like there was unlimited demand for, and trying to focus more on smaller, more affordable vehicles, something Ford Escape size, that would be, like you said, that compact crossover right in the heart of the segment.
Yeah.
If they can do something affordable and profitable in that kind of a segment, that could really change the shape of the industry.
Yeah, I mean, and this market is just starved for affordable vehicles, IC or EV. And if a couple of things need to happen. First of all, the Chinese automakers would actually have to get the right to sell vehicles in the U.S. But if they do, and on North America also, if they do, and they manage to sell these vehicles at a price point where they're still profitable, right now in China, the median price vehicle is less than it is United States. Vehicle affordability is a real issue, and eventually people are going to make a decision with their wallets. And even though there are negative sentiments about China right now, history has shown that we had um, to this is an understatement, an enormous conflict with Japan. We had an enormous conflict with Korea, and yet they're two of the largest automakers in the world and in this market.
Meaning that's as countries, but
Mhm.
specifically Toyota obviously is the world's largest automaker, huge presence here. Hyundai is growing fast. The Hyundai Group is now, I think, fourth largest in the world,
Yeah,
and investing heavily in the U.S. Through the Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis brands. Yeah, things change. Look, Vietnam. I mean, we
yeah.
now have a Vietnamese automaker in the
hmm
U.S. market, sort of. Only barely, but they're trying, building a plant and all this. Things that can seem unthinkable in one generation can become commonplace in the next.
Yeah, I mean that would have been unthinkable, decades ago. But the world has changed, like you said.
Yeah. Well, we know you're going to keep on top of all these trends in our news pages and our opinion pages. Appreciate all the work you do. Omari Gardner is Automotive News Director of Content and Commentary. Omari, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That's all for this weekend drive edition of Daily Drive. I'm Jamie Butters.
And I'm Kellen Walker. Thanks to Automotive News executive producer Jake Neer for his help on today's podcast. You can get the latest news on electrification, sales results, and everything happening in the auto industry at autonews.com.
We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think of the show and the topics we covered today. Send us an email at dailydrive@autonews.com or leave us a voicemail at 313-444-2774. If you enjoy the podcast, remember to like, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.